If your campaigns always fall apart around turn 30, it's probably not your battles, it's your diplomacy. I'm Ryan, the Sour Pirate, and in this video I'll give you a simple set of rules for diplomacy in Total War Warhammer 3. So you know who to befriend, who to ignore, and how to stop the whole map dogpiling you. Okay guys, so you want to learn about diplomacy, there's a lot to take in, so we're going to go through it quite in depth here. So for new beginners, this is going to be great for you guys, so understanding exactly what you need to do on every single turn when it comes to diplomacy, how diplomacy works, what affects diplomacy, and how things can be changed on the map with diplomacy. Diplomacy is extremely important. So let's have a look. So first of all, we've got the diplomacy screen. So once you load the screen up on the campaign map, you're going to see something like this. So I'm playing as the High Elves. I'm playing as Tyrion right now. I've literally just started the campaign and I've opened up the diplomacy screen. Nothing else has happened. And I can see all the attitudes to my characters at the very start of the game. So first thing we're going to have a look at on the left-hand side, this is your faction. Always on the left is your faction, so you'll see exactly the faction that you're playing at. You can see obviously their name, who they are, but what sort of like strength they are. So the strength rank is affected based on the number of settlements you have, the number of armies you have, the sort of buildings you have, that sort of thing. And the higher the strength rank, so like 1 is the highest, and like 270 or something is the lowest. So based on that, then you'll know how strong you are compared to others. So at the moment, Tyrion is strength 82, so he's pretty strong, but he's not super strong at the moment. Whereas you can see on the other side, when you look at Avalon, their strength is 132. So you can see Tyrion is a lot stronger than them. So then we've got reliability. We'll go into reliability a lot in a second. There's a lot to cover of reliability. We'll go through that and how it affects your gameplay. Then we have relations. So this will show you all the different types of agreements that are in place with your faction. So you've got whether things are defensive allies, whether there are military allies, whether you're at war with anyone, and whether you have any trade agreements. And at the bottom, it shows the trade goods. So every kind of faction will have trade goods based on the settlements they control. And then you can use them to make money, obviously, with other factions. The less trade goods you have, obviously, the less money you'll make. So, and then on the right-hand side, we have the exact same thing. Pretty much, there's a few changes here on this side. So in the attributes, we have a little bit more information about them. So they've got special traits, and these traits will affect how they negotiate with you. So we can have a look at them in a bit more detail. But for example, with Alarial, she's got Guardian, so she'll want to protect her homeland at all costs. She's safe and secure away from the world, so will be unmoved by the fate of other factions. And Diplomat, so very good at negotiating. So this is a very tough faction to negotiate with because they don't care about other factions. They protect their own land over everything, and they're very good at diplomacy. So like you kind of want to keep an eye on all of these as you go along. So for example, if I look at Arathar, they've got a slaver, which means that they'll capture slaves, and also they're very good at attacking port settlements. Not really much to do with diplomacy there, but it's something to bear in mind when you're looking at them. So what else is different here? So for example, if we go back to Avalon, if I can, Avalon. Okay. So when we're looking at Avalon, the relations are the same. You can see that they're at war with the Scourge of Cain. Apart from that, there's not much else here. We have their actual relation here, which will tell you how friendly they are towards you. So you can see here, Avalon is friendly, and that is because they approve of historical relations, treaties, the tolerance to Eataine, that's their tolerance to you, and then it tells you the total value, whether they're friendly or not. Now, if we look again at Arathar, he is 145 minus, so as you can see they're very unfriendly, and that's because of aversion, war with the Cult of Excess, and also gifts given to Elrond. And you can see that they are deteriorated, which means that next turn they're going to go from 145 to 155, which is not great. And that's because we're at war with them. So you can see that that's going to make differences. If I look at the Scourge of Cain, for example, they're very unfriendly with a minus 100. And if we look at Safari, for example, they're neutral. So you can see how things change. Everything reacts to a traffic light system. So positive is green, negative is red, and their neutral is kind of like an orange color. And you can also see that here at the top here on the left. Now that's the very basics of it and how it all works. Now if we go back to Avalon, we'll keep on Avalon for now. we want to try and affect that if we can. So the way of affecting it is by doing some sort of agreements with them. Obviously, going with them and trying to be friendly with them, or being negative with them, will affect how that is taken. So what we can do with Avalon is we can either directly negotiate with them by going into the negotiate button here at the bottom, or we can do a quick deal, or we can just exit. There is also a war coordination, which is something we'll talk about later, because we can actually have war coordination targets, but we won't cover that right now. So at the moment, we know that they're quite positive with us. They don't have any trade with us at the moment, but they could do. They have a non-aggression pact with us, but apart from that, there's not much else going on. So what we can do is we can go into here. So we can go into the screen here, and it kind of gives us a little bit of a breakdown of the offers and demands that we can make. So on the left-hand side, we've got our offers. On the right-hand side, we've got their offers or their demands, and then the treaties that we already have. And if we actually press the X, we can actually remove that treaty if we want to. So what we can do here is we can actually negotiate trade like we can. So we've got the trade agreement button at the bottom. At the moment, it is a green 0, which means it is positive, which means that they will accept it. Next to it, we have military access, which is -3, which means they won't accept that. And then so on and so on. As you can see, it goes up by a lot when it comes to military alliance. So what we can do is we can click on trade agreement, and that's going to actually say that we're going to get a trade agreement here. If I accepted this offer now, we would get 66 per turn, they would get 60 per turn, and that is literally it. That's all there is to it. Very easy, very nice. And that's going to affect their standing with you because they're going to have a trade agreement. Now, what we can do is we can also, because we're positive, we can actually ask to balance the deal. Balancing the deal is extremely important because we'll get money for our diplomacy. So if I click that, they're going to give us 1 gold. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's still gold. But you want to be doing this every single time. So every single time you have a positive amount at over 0. So for example, here you can see it's 0.2. If that was like 1 and we did it, we get a lot more gold. So that's what we need to keep an eye on as well. And that works in reverse as well. So if we ask for military access, they wouldn't give it that, but we can also demand that we balance it as well. And they would tell us how much we have to pay in order to get that military access. That is quite a lot of money. So we don't really want to be doing that. The other way of doing this is through quick deal. So we can click on quick deal and then click on trade agreement, and it will tell you the factions that will give you trade agreements right now. So you can see here, Illyrion, Avalon, and also Safari will give us a trade agreement off the bat without us having to actually work for it. So what we can do then is we can actually go into initiate diplomacy, and we can then ask for the balance, and then it's going to give us 79 gold for that trade agreement, which is great because actually we're getting the 65 and also we're getting 79 at the same time. So we're actually getting double the amount that we would that turn. So that's a pretty good deal in my opinion. So we could take that. We also can get a non-aggression pact for free. So that's really cool as well because we want that, because one of the things we'll cover in a minute is who you should be doing diplomacy with, and we'll cover that in a minute, but this is really important for this faction, so that's good. We also could maybe get a military access, but we'd have to pay them a bit more gold. We can actually add gold to this by clicking on it and then offering more, so we can actually see how much it would cost. So you see 2,479, and we can actually manually change this as well, so we can actually say maybe 2,100 might get it, maybe 2,000. 2,000 is just about, or we can go 199 or 1950, maybe 1900. You can see I'm playing with the numbers now to actually see how close I can get to 0. So I think we could probably go lower than that. Definitely not 1,000, but less than that. So probably about 1,500 would hit this point quite nicely. I don't know, we'll have to play around with that, but you can see here what you're trying to do here to try and get the maximum amount of what you're asking for. So you can go through that and work it on. Even with Tyrannok, we could potentially get a trade agreement with these because they are -1.2. So we could go in here and ask them how much we'd have to pay. So they want 2,000 gold in order for us to get 68 per turn. Not worth it in my opinion, but you can do that as well. So you've got options here. Now, on the quick deal screen, you have other things that you can do. So you can look at non-aggression pacts. You can obviously look at trade agreements. You can look at military access, defensive alliances, military alliances, and then join Confederation. Now, join Confederation, you can only do with factions that are within your race, so high elves in this example, I could only confederate with the high elves. So my goal in this campaign is to take down the dark elves, and then also to then protect obviously the island from incoming waves of like pirates and things like that, but then slowly build up the attitude of the high elves so that we can actually confederate with these nations, so we don't actually have to take them out by conquering them, which is really cool. And what will happen is over time, the high elves, because Tyrion is a legendary lord, he's going to obviously get stronger and stronger over time and become a lot stronger than these factions here, which will increase the chance that we will get this confederation. So we need to have a look at that as well. Okay, so let's think about why and who we would actually get an alliance with or get some sort of diplomacy with. So in my example, this will change depending on what race you play. But in my example, I'm playing as the high elves. So I want to be friendly with high elves. That's the number one thing you want. You can attack them if you want to, obviously, but you want to be friends with the ones that you can be friends with. So in my example, I want to be friends with all the high elves because they're going to help me out against other battles or I will fight later on. So if I get a military alliance with some of the high elves, they'll be able to help me out with the dark elves and also any of the monstrous races that are going to come and attack us throughout the campaign. What we also want to be doing, obviously, is working towards that confederation with them as well, because that's going to really be helpful. But also, we want to be looking at where we're going to go on the campaign map. So, for example, in this campaign, I want to obviously conquer this entire island. I want to keep that in my grasp so that I've got a really good base. And so I need to go either left round the island or right round the island. And if I choose to go right round the island, then I don't want the left side to be attacking me. So I want to be friendly with the left side. I don't want to be friendly with the right side because obviously that's where I'm going to be expanding into. So you have to think about where you're expanding as well. If you look at your objectives as well, that's a really good, useful indicator of where you want to go. So you can see here, I have to destroy the Cult of Pleasure, and they're over here, and Nagarond, which are over here. So naturally, I want to go to the west. So I'm going to end up going in that direction. So anything to the east of me, I probably want to have a look at and protect. So naturally, I'm going to be looking at like even the greenskins over here, probably being like a non-aggression pact with them. I want to obviously all the high elf factions I want to obviously be friends with. I'm obviously going to defend against the Cult of Excess because that's what I need to do anyway to start off the campaign. But obviously any of these guys over here, I will also be looking at trying to be friendly with. Even actually the Scourge of Cain, I would probably try and be friendly with to start with while I work my way left, because obviously Calador are not happy with us, so we might end up fighting those high elves. And then obviously I'm working my way this way. So that's what I would do in every game. Obviously there is more to it as well because we've obviously got all of these factions we want to destroy as well. So we need to think about that for a long campaign victory as well. So that's what I would do. I would focus on that at all times and making sure I keep one side of my flank secure as I'm moving left or I'm moving right on the map. Now, what else can you do with diplomacy? Well, diplomacy is really important actually for trying to deal with enemies as well. So the enemies themselves have things that we could deal with. So for example, if we're at war, let's say we're at war with the Cult of Excess, so if I can find them here, I can also ask for a peace treaty and I can give them money for this peace treaty. I don't know how much it would cost to get that peace treaty, more than I could muster. But you could then, for example, start thinking about how you're going to interact with your enemies. Are you going to give them peace treaties? Are you going to work with them? Are you going to try and get out of the war with them as quick as possible? That sort of thing. You also want to think about how you're going to interact with the enemies with other factions as well. So, for example, let's find one who's at war with someone else. Let's go with Avalon. Are they at war? They're at war with the Scourge of Cain. So what I could do first turn is I could actually, to try and boost my standings with them, I could actually offer to join a war against the Scourge of Cain. And that's going to give me a 3 diplomatic treaty over, like, to start with. So I actually have now the ability to actually add more things and it's going to give me more chance of getting either more gold, which is great, or I can start to think about trying to get like something like a defensive alliance, and how I can approach that. So maybe I want to give them some cash for a defensive alliance. Not that I would, but I can see if I can actually do that. I don't think I can, but you can see what I mean. So you can start to like control how other factions are viewing you by joining wars and also getting involved in their like kind of conflicts and their issues, and that's great. But there are also things to think about with this as well, because obviously that is going to affect how people see you. And if you don't do what you ask, what you're telling them to do, then it's going to affect you. So that's when we come on to things like reliability. So reliability at the moment here, obviously, it's very high. So the higher your reliability is the more likely that someone will do diplomacy with you. And that's extremely important, because if you become very unreliable, nobody's going to agree to do any trade agreements, nobody's going to have any non-aggression pacts with you, that sort of thing. And eventually people are going to start declaring war on you because they don't trust you. So you want to try and keep your reliability as high as possible all the time. And to do that, you need to, firstly, obviously, make sure you're friendly with them. You need to make sure that you're doing lots of diplomacy with them all the time. And also you're not breaking your promises. So for example, I have just done that trade agreement deal here on the screen, and I've joined the war against the Scourge of Cain. But what happens if I decide to peace out with the Scourge of Cain straight away? It's going to cause an issue with that faction, because obviously you agreed to fight them, and now they've lost their potential ally in the fight against the Scourge of Cain. Also, not fighting in battles against the Scourge of Cain will cause issues as well. So you want to be able to declare war on someone who is actually within the region that you can get to. Because if you're declaring war on someone far, far away, and then all of a sudden that enemy kills one of the armies of the faction you're helping, they're going to be annoyed that you weren't there to help, that sort of thing. So you've got to think about that at all times. Other things is joining wars against other nations that are friendly with the faction that you're trying to be friendly with. That's something very important as well. So for example, if I'm friends with Avalon and they're allies with, let's say, Safari, then I declare war on Safari. Avalon are going to be really annoyed because they're obviously friends with those people. They will obviously join the war because they're defensive allies, but not only that, they will lose a lot of relations with you. They'll cancel a trade agreement, they'll cancel the non-aggression pact, all sorts of things like that. And you want to try and avoid that if you can at all times, because you want to make sure you're as friendly with as many people as possible, and only declaring war on people that you actually need to declare war with. Otherwise, you're going to get overrun very fast. Okay, so there's one more thing to cover in diplomacy today, and that's something that's very, very important, and I think is actually probably my top tip of the entire guide, is settlement transfer. It is extremely powerful, and you want to be using it when you need to. So in this example, I am playing as Tyrion. Obviously, I've just conquered one of my home territories. I wouldn't trade this normally, but in this example, you can see that this could be very, very useful. So Safari here border me. They are a extremely big, at the moment, buffer state to me on my right-hand side. I want to go left. So what I can do is I can actually trade my settlement to them, and that's going to give me a really powerful buffer state to my right that's going to protect me against things like the greenskins, which are very close to me, as you can see. Also, it's going to massively increase their reputation with you and their standing with you. And also, they're going to give you a lot of money for it. So what we can do here is, for example, I can click on here, trade settlement, trade that settlement to them. They're going to give me 21 diplomatic treaties straight away. That is massive, massive. And I can also get a non-aggression pact, trade agreement, military access, and I'm still like way up here. And I can ask for cash, and they're going to give me 2,500 cash. So right at the start of the game, if that was what you wanted to do, you could make a ton of money really quickly, and you haven't got to worry about anything. You know what I mean? You've literally just increased all of this diplomatic standing with Safari without actually having to do anything else other than just take a settlement. Now, what I can also do is just give them the settlement, right, and just trade it for gold. That's they're going to get even more gold, which is even better, I think, in my opinion, because they're going to give you the trade agreement anyway. So that's great. So what we could do then is I can accept this.
A wise course.
And you can see next turn they're going to go from 10 to 60 because we've actually given them a big gift, and they see it as a gift rather than, even though we've got lots of gold from them, they see it as a gift. So that's going to work us towards getting to that Confederation straight away. So when it's like needed, it's a really useful tactic. What an example of this would be, let me just come out of diplomacy to show you. So an example of this would be is that obviously Tyrion's main lands are Etain, so this whole area here, right? How about if, for example, we take Cairn Fell and then we give this to Safari, and they can then look after this province, again, making that buffer state. But also later down the line, we're going to confederate with them. So we're going to get all of this territory anyway. So it's a really useful tactic if you have a, for example, you're going a different way and it's not part of your home state. And another example of this is if you can't actually physically control the settlement yourself. That's a really useful thing. I don't think there's any examples here that I have visible. But if we can't control this settlement for any reason, because it's like a Skaven or a lizard man or anything like that, that's not accessible for the elves, I can then trade that to a settlement to the right of me, and they can take that on, and I can then use that as a buffer state and get lots of cash for it without having to control it myself. So that's another great way of using it. I hope these sort of little mini guides are really useful for you guys. Obviously, if it is really useful, let me know in the comments. I want you to tell me what sort of diplomacy you like to do in your campaigns. Do you do very, very in-depth diplomacy like this? Or do you like to just kind of like leave it in the background and not bother with it? Let me know. Also, if you're obviously really enjoying this, let me know by leaving a like and also subscribing, because I'm going to be posting something like this every Wednesday on the channel, just so you guys have something to watch. So it's going to be really interesting and help you with your beginner guides. And if you did enjoy this video, probably do what Tyrion says on the screen now and select the video that it's showing you. It's going to take you to a video with a great guide on how to do battles if you're struggling. Thank you guys. I'll see you in the next one.